On today's episode, we've got Andy Oakes. Yes, the guy who runs both a PR agency and a media outlet. So basically, he's his own biggest fan. You might know him as the king of spin, but today, we're pulling back the curtain. Does he actually get high on his own press releases? Or is there a method to his madness? Let's find out how Andy balances stroking egos and breaking stories without pulling his hair out. Andy, you ready to roast yourself?
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet-the-company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Today on the Adotat Show, we got Andy Oakes, the man who thought, why report the news when you can also make it? Andy runs both a PR agency and a media outlet, making him the ad tech world's ultimate multitasker. Is he a visionary, redefine the industry, or he just enjoy debating with himself? Stick around as we dive in how Andy juggles both being the storyteller and the gatekeeper without losing his mind. Let's cut to the chase, Andy. First of all, how are you doing? No buzzwords, no polished business is great answers. What's been weighing on your mind lately? Something that caught you off guard? Something that's keeping you up at night?
I tell you what's keeping me up at night. My daughter moved out last weekend. She moved to the East End of London.
Oh.
So for the first time in 23 years, we have an empty nest. We had no kids in the house. So it's terrifying. Oh. Quiet and lovely. And I suddenly realised how many glasses and mugs we own because they've all come out of our offspring's bedrooms, and it's terrifying what they've been doing up there for years. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for the emotional upheaval of that.
They're moving out?
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Is it all spreadsheets and sunshine, or have there been a few curveballs that smacked you in the face lately? Besides that, it's been a really, really odd year. There's any way to get around that. Everything has taken so much longer. We've started to land business on the PR side of the business that has taken, what would have taken 3 weeks is now taking 6 months. The decision making, people are so cautious, and I thought that after the summer things would pick up faster. I think I know a lot of people are having a really tough Q4, and we're here, we work with a lot of US owned ad techs, and they're saying if the US is hesitating, which means the UK will as well, which means that Europe will as well. It's a funny market at the moment. And I talked to a lot of people about it. They sort of want to see the end of this year.
Settle for dusty old school TV ads when you could be turning heads with Origin. Imagine zero-code solutions that make setting up your CTV campaigns faster than a double espresso shot. Origin brings dynamic, captivating ads in the living room and outside the home. With ad formats designed to grab eyeballs and stop thumbs from scrolling, Origin isn't just about reach, it's about results. Like a jaw-dropping 883% lift in viewer attention. Don't just get noticed. Get remembered. Visit originmedia.tv and start your ad revolution today.
That's coming up soon, I hear. What's been going on in your life recently that you expected, however?
Just the terrible onset of age. I go to so many ad tech events now. I go to so many conferences, and I do get worried that I'm fast becoming the oldest man in the room unless Terry Kawaja is there. This is beginning to worry me a great deal. But what I'm beginning to see is that
he was the old man in the industry when I was in my 20s.
And this is worrying.
That was the funny part. Or my 30s. Yeah, my 30s in the 2000s. He was the old guy. And, now I'm the old guy. But we still have Gary. So, I mean, we have to have that consistency.
What keeps me going is the endless hype cycle of ad tech. And it's having been in this since the early 2000s, that we now have a new thing. We have a new thing to obsess around. We're going to obsess about AI for the next year. We're going to talk about it a lot. We're going to talk about it too much, as is always the way of the ad tech hype cycle.
We're definitely going to talk about the hype cycle, and AI here. What's the latest thing that made you go, however, well, I didn't plan for that?
Well, let me give you one personally. I didn't plan to spend so much time in hospital this year with a heart condition, which I didn't know I had, which made me, that puts you out of business for a while. Luckily, we got a good team. Luckily that they all dropped in and sorted everything out for me. I think the other thing was that we planned for things to get so much bigger, so much faster. this year, I think, and it's just not happening. I know I'm repeating myself here, but we you have to build business around the vision, and the vision for growth, whilst it's started to happen, hasn't really kicked in, and that's across the industry. That's not us.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of ad tech, what's your coping mechanism? Deep breaths or pretending it's all fine while internally screaming?
It's both of those things, and indeed large quantities of Malbec. I've given up screaming. I'm too old for that now. It's deep breaths and working on the basis that you rarely see anything new these days. The problem is the same problem we had 10 years ago. It's the same problem we had 15 years before that. With the experience that I have and my team have now, nothing is a new problem. So you remember the last time that this was going to be an issue. So, you sort of know how you're going to get through it. There's no point lying awake at night panicking about things, because, at the end of the day, it will get sorted, and they always do.
So owning a PR agency and a media outlet sounds like juggling flaming swords while riding a unicycle. How do you convince people you're not just writing your own glowing headlines and pushing a PR narrative disguised as journalism? Do they think you're the media version of a double agent whispering into your own ear?
Oh, I hope so.
Have you ever just attempted to write yourself a puff piece about yourself and just call it a day?
Frequently. There's enough people in our industry who do that anyway. No, it wasn't the easiest of moves to make. However, I think we're kidding ourselves if we think the trade media is whiter than white. If we think that, every trade mag out there takes paid content. Every trade mag out there has branded content partnership divisions. We're doing very little that's different to that. We just added in a separate part. We've closed off the circle, if you like. It's a model that has been proven to work now for 7 years now. And yes, I'd be lying if I said no one had questioned it. And
was it an aha moment, or more like one of these hold my beer, let's see what happened moments?
When we were good.
Did anyone tell you it was a terrible idea?
Yeah. It was. Well, there were two sets of people who told me it was terrible ideas: old-fashioned PR companies and old-fashioned media owners. Now, isn't it funny that as we're now 7 years on from that every PR company does some form of content production now, whether they call it their event, whether they have their own on-site blog, whatever their podcasts. We've just expanded that idea. The B2B trade press needed a kick up the backside. It's been pretty complacent. It's tried to function on a 1990s model in the 2020s. It never really effectively moved on from selling print ads and subscriptions. So, we're just trying to do something a little bit different, and it's worked.
Do people ever accuse you of owning the PR media world just to throw a parade of your own ideas? Do you ever say, well, if you own the game, you'd make the rules too?
Yeah, look, people do sometimes suggest that we can do things. We are very transparent. Whenever we write about a Blue Stripe Communications client, you can go into New Digital Age and you'll be able to see that we reflect that every single time, and we put a disclaimer in there. My business partner Justin worked for the IAB for a long time on their content marketing, or their branded content team. He's very keen on our transparency, and in many ways we're slightly harder on our own clients. If a PR team from Blue Stripe, PR member of the team from Blue Stripe says to us, here's a story, we will judge that in exactly the same way as we judge any other PR pitch we get in. And if it's not good enough, it won't go in. We've got to do that, otherwise the model doesn't work, and we wouldn't get the clients in.
Do you see more people copying this model moving forward?
Yeah, I've seen it's started to happen in other industries. I've seen it happen in the legal market now. I believe there's something happening in the health space around it. Why not? It's not a bad idea. And as long as you do it honestly and with transparency, and you talk to your clients about it right from the start, there are two ways of coming at it. Our clients come on board, and I like the fact that we have the trade media arm as well, because that means we can offer them insights that your average PR company can't. They can't do that. They're not as close to the industry as we are. We can offer them insights on how to, but we don't say, don't go and talk to Ad Age, don't go and talk to DigiDay, because that would be a pointless exercise. Those are great titles. They do amazing things. They're so much bigger than what we can do. But what we can offer that level of strategy, and having worked at New Media Age, the Drum, my colleague Justin worked at DigiDay as well. We've been in those big titles, so we know what it's all about.
So moving on, let's talk about the Ad Tech Carnival. It's where everyone's got a shiny new booth claiming that they have the next big thing, but half the time it's just cotton candy promises that melt in your hands. How do you sift through all the hype and figure actually what's worth your time? Do you have like a secret BS detector to keep handy, or is it just instinct?
My BS detector goes off when someone mentions you've got a unique proposition. My key advice to anybody
There are
when
no
they
more,
come to, there are no more
are there
unique
no more
propositions.
unique propositions?
I refuse to.
Everything's the same?
There are variations on a theme. There are better products than other people have got. Very rarely has someone come to me and said, and we've looked at it and thought, that's unique and that is totally different. It might be just shining a light on a problem in a different way. It might be a better variation on something that's done before. You've got to trust the people who've been there and done it before. I think there are some really, really good people in ad tech, both sides of the Atlantic, and who I tend to trust. Conversely, there are some really bad people in ad tech who bounce around companies. They're nowhere longer than 10 months. And you tend to realize that there's a reason for that. And when they come to you with their next big thing, you know, open doors to everybody, but I trust the people rather than the proposition.
How much do you think that the VCs have to blame for this?
Yeah.
They seem to be putting money on anything.
While the VCs and private equity, if you go to someone
I asked Terry the same question.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't say, why are you funding crap? But I pretty much asked him why we keep on funding things that don't work.
Yeah, but if you go to somewhere around 2010, one of the big problems was there was a huge explosion of ad tech companies in the UK, and a lot of American companies came over, and they were Me Too versions of what we already had. What this meant that there was a lack of talent, and it meant that some really bad people got into jobs that they shouldn't have been anywhere near. And what this meant was it set the ad tech business back at least 3-4 years, I believe, because the wrong people were doing the wrong jobs. People who shouldn't have been near some of these jobs got into them, and they stayed in them. Some of them are still there. It just meant that my colleague Justin asked a question at most of the time. We do it once a year, Conference Foresight, and he asked the same question every year. He said, if ad tech was your child, how old would it be now? What life stage would it be? And I think it's still troubled teenager, because
right. I think I've actually used that metaphor. It's a troubled teenager.
Yeah, but it's never properly grown up. It's never. Terry said at the last event that it's a silly industry because it's never entirely rationalised itself. We haven't had a consolidation we've needed. It's never properly grown up. It's never gone through that period of maturity. And it's because we are constantly seeking the next big thing, rather than saying, we've got a lot of good things. Why don't we make them better?
So how many buzzwords does it take before you end up at the pub?
That may sound, the answer to this really depends on where we are in the week.
So what's the wildest ad tech claim you've heard? Is it something so ridiculous it made you question if you were in the right industry? Did you think, is this guy pitching me a time machine, or does he generally think his product can bend space and time?
Well, this is a good story.
Is that a pen or a... Can't see. Is that a pen or you?
Definitely a pen. Oh, God, no. And you can't see my Malbec. That is out of shot. So, right, I think it was our third client, so this was on the PR side of the business, came to us, and they told us they had got the funding to do the world's first blockchain-enabled media agency. And weirdly...
Whenever I hear blockchain, I raise one eyebrow and...
No, everything was fine about this. We got them huge amounts of coverage. We got them on the front page of Campaign. They actually got on to the shortlist for the UK Cabinet Office, which is a huge part of it, local UK government, for their media buying department. There was only one problem with that. Well, two, if we're being honest. There was no blockchain, and there was no media agency. And the whole thing had been the front from a wannabe holdco, and we had sort of fallen for it. But so had the rest of the industry. This teaches me about
ads.
Oh yeah. People were booking. Everything was being handled offsite. I remember watching our client on stage live at Advertising Week in London announcing that The Guardian was now running the first blockchain book campaign. It turned out not to be entirely true. It turned out that it wasn't everything we'd hoped it would be. And that teaches you a lesson first up, that don't take a product to market unless you've actually seen the offices, unless you've seen the tech work, unless you 100% believe everything that's happening there. Because in this market, I've said it before, there are people you don't want to trust. And whilst the people we met, I still know, the people behind them were the shady characters.
Is transparency just the industry's way of saying, look over here while we quietly sweep it under the rug?
Absolutely. It's industry self-flagellation tool, isn't it? Yeah. A transparency thing is something that we've never got to grips, mainly because we don't want to. Because I think if we're very honest, we don't want everybody to know how many links there are in the value chain. We don't want people to understand where that media buy, why that if someone invests 100,000 in ads that the publisher doesn't get it. That's not transparency that people want to know. That's transparency that we need to keep, that people want to keep within these within the four walls of the ad tech business. If you tell people what happens with that when people buy an ad, they'll ask you why. Why are so many people involved? Why are there so many parts of the chain? Why can't I just ring a publisher and book it out? Well, you can, but that was the old days.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did for a decade, was just sell ads on websites.
Absolutely. And
it
I
seems
used
like
to
that-
sell print ads back in the day. 'Cause I'm a fairly old man.
Why can't we just move back to that?
Because you can't put the genie back in the bottle. But you can't disregard an industry that now employs so many thousands of people. I remember going to my first ever ad tech event, but it was called real-time bidding back then. And we were told this would be probably the last one of these big industry conferences because we weren't going to need all of these people. Everyone was going to have more time. Media agencies were just going to plug in straight to publishers and none of these people would be needed. And that's not entirely worked out.
That's what Right Media was.
It's exactly that. Exactly that. But ask yourself this, from going back then, with the exception of Google, who's still around? What happened to AOL? We're going to rule the world until they didn't. Yahoo is a byword for failure and mismanagement. None of these companies...
They destroyed Right Media. Yeah, I remember when they bought it. 2 years later, it was completely wrecked, especially the exchange. Yeah, the Right Media exchange had something like, 5,000, 10,000 publishers that you could buy directly. Like you could actually choose the publisher you don't want. And it was pure, I don't know if it was complete transparency, but it was 99% transparency.
Yeah.
Because you knew where your ad showed.
And now we're moving into an age of where we're trying to avoid a lot of transparency. So we're talking about curation. We're talking about lists, the bigger companies bringing together their list of 100 publishers we think you should buy from without necessarily telling you why or what relationships they already have with them. So I think we just got different areas of murkiness that we fall into. What's Ad Age going to write about if we're entirely clear and transparent?
If you could write an open letter to ad tech world, what buzzword would you get rid of? Is it something like disruption? Because if I hear disruption one more time, I am going to need a disruption from all this nonsense.
I think disruption is up there. I do feel physical twinges when anyone asks me to lean into a concept. Omni-channel, any buzzword.
But yeah, doesn't that just mean more? Doesn't that just mean more than one channel? Like
it really does.
I'm just buying in more than one place.
Yeah, I'm going to go there, but I'm also going to go there.
Which is what
and
media
it's not
companies
so much
have done
buzzwords,
for
it's
100
the
years.
I look at the over-inflated topics. Because we have a US-driven ad tech media, CTV is seen as huge. And it isn't in the UK. We need to hit that right now, that it is not the huge market that it is in the US.
Do you think we'll ever see the day where ad tech stops being the Wild West of overpromises and actually settles down into something, I don't know, normal?
Yeah, I think it will. I think there are signs of it. I think publishers will demand it. Brands will demand it. I think as we move away from the whole in media buying, which we're starting to see with the rise of some really good big indie companies in the UK, and I know it's happening in the US as well. I think people just want...
So everyone has their own version of Yoda, a wise mentor who opens your eyes to the mysteries of the industry. Who's been your guiding light in the ad tech world, and what piece of advice they give you that still echoes in your head like a Jedi mantra? I think it stopped recording again. You were talking about Justin Pierce.
It's the news editor of New Media Age, which was... our title now is New Digital Age, so it's a nod to that. For those who don't know New Media Age, it was the Bible in the UK. It was the trade title that wrote on all things digital. It had a print title with a very bad website, but we don't go back into that small detail. It had a massive audience. It used to put on award shows that got 2,000 people there. And I came in as a publisher in 2005, and I had no clue what the industry was about. Genuinely didn't understand it. And I asked Justin, tell me what these things are. Tell me how it's going to make sense to me. And he said, they're just the fucking pipes. It's an ad delivery method. It's the way that the ad gets from the buyer, from the seller to the buyer, and all things in between. There is no magic being done here. Do you remember that? It's a fairly simple process. Interestingly, we had a new sales guy join the team today, and I told her exactly the same thing. And that tech looks a bit overwhelming. No, buyers and you've got sellers, and it's a little bit, it's the grey area in between. And as long as you remember that, don't get too in awe of it, but realise there's some great people in it. Too far wrong.
What's one piece of advice you wish he'd given you, but you had to learn the hard way?
Behaviour blockchain-enabled media agencies. Was you told me earlier about the people who come through the industry stay in the industry. The people that drop in, come out, disappear. There's a reason for that. Trust the good people, and I think to understand that as an industry, people get away with too much in the early days. Sorts of things. So, when we talk about the industry not growing up, that's one of the reasons behind it. Because people hark back to that being those being the good old days, spending $5,000 in Cannes and falling out to the bar at advertising week and those things. Those were not the good old days. They were just the days that people could remember and could get away with it. I've seen a lot of things long enough and done enough good work that people will understand that I've got the industry's best interests at heart. I think that, I do get a lot of messages, asking for help here, asking for help there. And I think that the ad tech industry needs people who've been there from the start and have come through it. And I think that there are some people who do that on the operational side. There's some fantastic publishers out there who've been there pretty much since day one. And there's some people who's in the support industries on the side who've been there from day one. We've got some brilliant people over here, people like Kieran Kane over at ExchangeWire, who's just one of the best guys in the industry. There's some great journalists like Ronan
Shields.
Ronan Shields, yeah.
At Digiday, right?
That's it. We gave him one of his first jobs in the UK. Also, Seth Joseph.
Yeah, I'll mention it. It looks like you keep on coming and going because of the storm in the UK. Apologize. Moving on. If you're stuck on a desert island, you get to bring 5 people with you. Who's making the cut? And please tell me it's not all business people, because I'm hoping there's at least one chef or survivalist in there.
So the chef I've got covered. So my son is a chef. He's worked in Gordon Ramsay restaurants. He's worked in Michelin star restaurants. And if you ever find yourself in Hackney, go to the Lagom restaurant and be their place, because he'll be there cooking you coals. The kid's a brilliant chef. So I'm taking him.
What's on the menu?
The fish he does drives me mad. It's fantastic.
And there's going to be and there'll be a lot of coconuts and fish, I think, on a desert island.
A lot of coconuts and fish. It's my island. I'm choosing him. This is nothing against my daughter, who is a lovely person. I'll bring her as well, but she's in children's book publishing, and I'm not seeing the skills of transferring to island life. I'm going to take my wife as well, because she's been my business partner through this crazy ride as well. And Lid's main skill is telling me, stop doing that. It's stupid. So whilst I'm constructing some sort of craft to get off this island, probably involving coconut shells and palm fronds, she'll be the one saying, let's just wait for someone to rescue us. Industry people.
Is this more of a lost situation? Is this more of a lost situation, or are you hoping for more of like a luxury beach retreat?
Yeah. I'm thinking sort of the White Lotus type thing. I'm feeling too old for the average desert island. I'm wanting a bit more luxury now. I mean, the other people I put on my list were just fun people. I just wanted some industry people to have a laugh with. If I'm going to be stuck on this island, I might as well enjoy it. Some great people. Phil Acton from Adform, I wanted. Fee from Mantis. People I've spent a lot of time with in the industry. I don't think they've got any transferable skills. I'm fairly certain they don't. But if we're going to be stuck in this island, we might as well make the most of it and have some fun with these people.
So if you could bring one piece of technology, and you can't say satellite phone, I'm talking real essentials here, what would you bring?
Thinking that my Gaggia coffee machine is something that I'm going to have an issue not having.
It's a solar-powered espresso machine.
Oh, yes, it's solar-powered. It wasn't until that you mentioned it, but it is now. Because I also got a coffee, Italian coffee as well. So that is something I'm going to need. Otherwise, I'm really not starting island life until at least 11 o'clock. I'm missing the best fishing of the day, I'm assuming.
What do you think you learn after a week with your chosen team? Would you come back enlightened, or just really sunburnt and desperate for a real bed?
Well, you know what? Every summer I go away and I do switch off. I avoid the news. I don't look at the trade press. I'm in my desert island. I'm going to take the time to do that. I'm not going to go on X/Twitter, and I wouldn't miss that anymore. I think if you don't switch off in this industry, you're going to go slightly mad. You do see people, the constant LinkedIn updaters, the constant tweeters. This guy's posted, said, I need to now respond. There are so many things more important. There are so many things more important than just being seen as that guy who's made the comment, who's responded to the thing. So I'm going to be sunburned, yes, because I've not got a lot of natural coverage up top. but I'm going to be quite zen about it.
Do you think your team would thrive or immediately start plotting ways to take over the island and kill you?
Oh, I mean, I firmly believe they're plotting to kill me now.
Your family, especially?
2/3 of them at least. My team have sadly had a lot of time, time that I haven't been around in the office this last year, and have learnt annoyingly quickly to cope without me on various things. So I suspect the island will be the same. I think once I've passed on all my wisdom early, I will probably be seen as the weak link. In a desperate situation, the one that's getting pushed off a rock and fed to the sharks fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's the buddy system I always heard is you feed your buddy to the sharks.
This is good to know. I mean, we don't have that many shark issues here in Bloomsbury, but I will remember that when climate change means they're swimming up the Oxford Street and up into the middle of London.
Well, I hear about every so often there's a shark that goes up the Thames, right?
Absolutely there is. And then it kills the one salmon that has decided to spawn up there as well, with the Thames being the beautiful place that it is.
I've been reading the Rivers of London series. I don't know if you know about it. I just finished the last book that came out in 21, and it's pretty awesome to learn about all the rivers, and obviously there's the whole mythology with it, but it's been pretty interesting to learn about all the rivers that are underground. Yeah, the River Fleet runs no more than, I think it's 300 meters from our office. I'm always pretty impressed by that. So if you could bring one person instead of 5, who would it be? I don't. You know what? I'm going to bring my cat. Right. Well, you probably should say your wife. I mean, probably should. Honest. But you know, she doesn't listen to my She doesn't listen to my podcast that I record from New Digital Age. So the chances of her listening to this fairly minimal. Neither does mine, and she's the one that told me I should do this. Yeah. I mean, she's a podcast listener. I listened to like 5 podcasts in the industry and got really bored, and I was like, they all suck. Maybe I should do a podcast. And she said, genuinely think my wife. You really should. Yeah. My wife has put up with me. We recently celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. Congrats. Yeah, we've had 2 kids, 1 huge business, and luckily we're very lucky that we have 3 founders for the business, because I think just us 2, without having Justin sitting in the middle, deflecting and putting up with the pair of us, it would be very difficult. So yeah, when we edit this, put her in. Yeah, definitely. I brought Lydia with me. Yeah, I'll put like a text over it. And if we could. A thing that eventually, Andy said his wife. We've talked a lot about business. What's really driving you today? Not the generic I want to succeed. Like what lights your fire? Ambition, passion, or sheer stubbornness? You know what it is? Mainly wishing that I'd started this earlier. I was 44 when I started the business. I was no hustling tech bar in a gilet and a branded baseball cap. I was having to set up a business because I was running out of other people who would employ me. I wish I'd done it earlier, because I was just thinking, one thing you're never short of is ideas. And I think, do I really want to be here still doing this in 5 years' time when business will truly mature? Because, I'm not going to lose any more hair, obviously, but I'm not getting any younger. It annoys me that I missed out on the excitement. So I've got to fit everything in. Does success feel still as sweet as it when it started? Or are you just kind of hoping for something bigger now? You know what? That's a really, really good point. It just went off again. Whenever people ask me about when I'm setting up a business, what should we do? I tell them, you celebrate every success like it's your first one. The minute you stop celebrating the success, you've got complacent. We had a period, I think 3 years in, when we were winning loads of accounts, when New Digital Age was piling on traffic, we were getting sponsorships all over the place. And when we won an account, we didn't go to the pub to celebrate, we didn't open a bottle or something, we didn't take ridiculous photos in the office. We said, yeah, this is what happens now. And I really regret that, because we should have celebrated every single win. Because when times got a bit harder, when we went through the pandemic, when we went through recession, and those wins didn't happen every other week, we realised we were living it back then. So the passion to succeed it's not about building a huge business, building a massive thing that we can, I will get architecture to come and buy next week as a kid, they buy everything else up. It's about making the best business. They're buying every meme account, right? I think they bought every meme account this week. Published enough games, which is beginning to worry me. I have been in a Kawaja parody video though, so that was a moment. He's the one. Are you more of a work hard, play person, or is it all about the long game? In all honesty, work less hard, work better, spend time. The pandemic taught us a few things about the cult of presenteeism and I'm in the office every day till 8 o'clock. You don't need to be doing that. You need to be working better. You need to be having better ideas, employing better people, and letting them get on with it. You're no use to the business if you're
you're working yourself too hard. Absolutely no use, because then you're not coming up with ideas. You're not the sounding board anymore. You're not the person that the rest of the company needs you to be.
So when things get tough, what's some mantra that keeps you focused?
We've done this before. I think I said it earlier. There's very few tough positions you get into now that we've not seen before, that you know the way out of it because you did it the last time. I was lucky to learn when I did publishing for about 1 million years before I started this. So we learned from some great old greybeards, both male and female greybeards, because that's the weirdest thing I said today. People who've been there, done it, and seen it. Learn from those people. Nothing is as much of a crisis as you first think it is. And I think we talk to our clients about that, and we talk to our team about that. Panicking rarely solves the issue.
So if you weren't in ad tech, what would you be doing? Is there like a dream job or alternate reality where you're doing something completely different?
I'm going to be a professional rugby player until my shoulders blew out.
Right.
Is
that important in rugby? The
shoulders? Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Tackling with anything else.
The whole game is just push.
Yeah, if you tackle with anything else, it's really going to hurt quite a lot, because unlike football, we don't have them padded.
Right. And unlike football, you guys play with like broken fingers and arms and stuff, right? And
yeah,
ribs.
and you know what we still do? So I play, and I know this freaks out Americans a lot. I play field hockey, which is not just a university girls' sport.
A girls' sport?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was about to say.
It's huge. So I dislocated my elbow at the weekend, and I played on. Which,
right?
Benefit of hindsight.
Is that a contact sport?
It shouldn't be. As I get older and slower, there is more contact, because that is how I've decided to stop younger, fitter players. But benefit of hindsight, I wish I hadn't carried on.
Sticking.
Yeah, you get a big stick and you chase people around all day. Have I got something I'd still be doing? You know what? I'm looking beyond the laptop now. There's a photo of Tuscany in the summer, and I would probably be a hotelier in Tuscany, wandering around wearing a lot of linen, serving a lot of Montepulciano, serving a lot of great pasta. And that's what I'm doing next.
So I have so Doctor Who or Red Dwarf?
Red Dwarf. There is absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, one of them's a program for children, and the other one is Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf was a seminal British comedy of the, when? 90s, I suppose, into the early 2000s. It was very funny. It was very rude. There's a lot of jokes in there that possibly wouldn't get through today. And any spaceship that has a giant human-like cat on board is good for me. I really wish I'd said that as well.
What do you hope your legacy will be in both your industry and personal life? What do you want people to remember you for besides giant cats?
Is it that thing? Yeah, I think that's all that's going to go now. You know what? I just want people to think he was a good bloke. He employed good people. He did good work for people. You know, I'm long since. I don't want to be an industry influencer. You know, I don't know enough about the industry. I've never done the industry enough to be able to. You know, I've never traded a campaign in my life. So having any position of influence within this industry is hilarious. I just want to be. I would like to be seen as someone who was fair to everybody, who always bought his round, was normally to be found in the Union Club on a Thursday afternoon holding court with his friends. And that circle of friends just got bigger and bigger. And from a personal point of view, I just want, as I said earlier, my kids have moved out. I don't need to come home once in a while. Once every 3 weeks should be about fine. I don't want them to think I was a good dad. That's all you can ask for, really.
So last, I want to ask you, was there a time, what time in your life was most important in your development, and what did you learn?
2012, Centaur Publishing had just shut down New Media Age and decided to invest £57 million in another project, which subsequently didn't go as well as they'd hoped. I was made redundant, and I started work at the Drum for some fantastically entrepreneurial people, and it made me realise that they came to me and said, we want your ideas, we want your experience. And I think it enabled me to have that confidence leap to say, you know what, you do know what you're talking about. You have got good ideas. And then when I could subsequently took Justin from that job and we got him in there, and I suddenly realised we came up with brilliant ideas, and that when we took those ideas to clients and they said, oh yeah, but it takes you a bit of the way, but imagine what you guys could do on your own. And I remember having that exact moment in 2016 in a bar in the East End of London, when a client who subsequently became a client said to us, if you guys ever did your own thing, we'd probably back you. And when we did, and they did, that was a great moment. So it's having that belief, learning from some really good people when I was at the Drum, meeting Justin, and then having Lydia be the actual brains of the organisation. Because the great thing about setting up a PR agency is it turns out you do need people who understand about PR. And Justin and I didn't have a clue. That turned out to be a minor hitch. And Lydia being that person coming, yeah, tell you what, I've actually been in PR for 20 years. Maybe I should do that bit. So having those things fall into place all at the same time, that worked.
So the most important question, Stella Artois, Sharp's Doombar, or Timothy Taylor's landlord?
Doombar, it's a modern day classic. Stella Artois is fighting lager. It's not something you want to drink more than 2 of if you don't want to get in trouble. And Timothy Taylor, more than 2 pints of that is going to do awful things to your insides.
And that's a wrap, folks. Huge thanks to Andy for taking us behind the scenes of his wild double life, running a PR agency and a media outlet like some sort of ad tech Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Is he crafting the stories or just controlling the narrative? Who knows? But it was a ride. Also, massive shout out to our incredible sponsors, Troutman, Amin, and Origin. If you're not using Origin's lightning-fast CTV solutions to supercharge your campaigns, seriously, what are you even doing with your life? And Troutman, Amin, these guys can handle your legal nightmares while you sleep soundly, unless, of course, you prefer sweating through every compliance meeting. Thanks for sticking around. As always, stay bold, stay curious, and know more than you did yesterday. Until next time, don't let the buzzwords bite.